Okay, so you know how sometimes in English you just kind of get stuck between two words and you're like, wait a second, which one is it?
Yeah.
Today, we're going to tackle two of those words that can be really tricky for English learners, but actually even sometimes native speakers.
NOS.
We're talking for and since.
Yeah, those little prepositions that can cause so much trouble.
Exactly.
And they both have to do with time, but they're used in very different ways.
They are, and I think this is going to be super useful for everyone listening out there because you're going to sound so much more natural and fluent in English.
Absolutely. It'll just add this extra level of precision to your speech.
Right, so you're not kind of fumbling around for the right word.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's jump right into it.
Right.
For, what is it all about?
So for is all about duration.
Okay.
It's talking about how long something lasts. So if you're thinking about a period of time,
Okay.
that's when you would use for.
Like how long I've been doing something.
Exactly. So for example, you could say, I have been studying English for 2 years.
Okay, so it's like that whole time span of 2 years.
Precisely. It's that stretch of time that you're focusing on.
Gotcha. And we're talking about any length of time, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be years.
No, not at all. It could be anything. It could be a few hours. It could be a couple of days. It could be months, years, centuries, you name it.
Right, so it's like for 5 minutes, for a week, for a whole month.
Exactly. And the key is you're always emphasizing that length of time, that duration.
So it's like the answer to the question, how long?
Precisely. That's the key takeaway with for. How long has this been going on?
Okay, for equals duration.
Duration, exactly.
Right, let's move on to since now.
Okay, so since is a little different. Since is all about the starting point.
Ooh, okay.
It's when something began. So instead of focusing on how long something's been going on,
Yeah.
since tells you when it started.
So it's like that specific moment in time?
Exactly. It's like a timestamp.
Okay.
It marks a point on the timeline and says, this is when it all began.
And so what kind of words do we usually use with since?
So with since, you'll always have a specific time, word, or date.
Okay.
So it could be something like 8 o'clock Monday, February 1982.
Right.
You know, a specific year.
Right.
Or even something like since I graduated.
Okay, so it's very specific.
Very specific. It's that pinpoint in time.
So for is kind of like the whole race, and since is like the starting pistol.
That's a great analogy. I like
Okay.
it.
Okay, so let's give some examples of how we'd use since in a sentence.
Sure. So you could say, I've been working here since June.
Okay.
So June is the month you started and you're still working there.
Right.
Or he hasn't eaten since 7 o'clock.
So he stopped eating at 7 o'clock and hasn't eaten anything since.
Since marks that moment when the action stopped.
Okay, and one more.
We've been married since 2002.
So 2002 is that starting point, and it's continuing to the present.
Precisely, you got it.
Okay, so to summarize, for is all about that duration, how long something has been happening.
Right.
And since is about that specific starting point in time.
That's it in the nutshell.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, now, this is where I think things can get a little tricky for people. So let's talk about some of the common mistakes that we see with for and since.
Okay, so one very common mistake is using for when you actually need since.
Okay, how so?
So, for example, someone might say, I've been studying English for 2023.
Why wouldn't that work?
Well, because 2023 is a year. It's a starting point. It's not a duration.
Right, it's not like a length of time, it's a specific moment.
Exactly. So the correct way to say that would be, I've been studying English since 2023.
So since, because it's that specific year when you started.
Precisely.
Gotcha. And I bet the opposite happens too. People using since when they should be using for.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like what?
Like saying, I've been living here since 2 years.
Ah.
2 years is a duration. It's a length of time. It's not a specific point in the past.
So what would be the correct way to say that?
You'd say, I've been living here for 2 years.
For 2 years. Okay.
Because you're emphasizing the length of time, the duration.
Got it. So when you're talking about a specific point in time, like a date or a day or a year,
Yeah.
that's when you want to use since.
Exactly.
But if you're talking about how long something has been going on,
Right?
then you go with for.
That's the key distinction to keep in mind.
All right. I think we've broken it down pretty well. I'm feeling good about fors and since now.
Me too.
Yeah.
And you know what? The best way to really get this is just to practice.
Totally.
Pay attention to how native speakers use these words.
Right.
Read a lot, listen to podcasts, and eventually it'll just become second nature.
Absolutely. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll feel using for and since correctly.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about.
It is. And that brings us to the end of our Dup Dive today.
Great stuff.
I really hope this has helped clarify the difference between for and since for all of you out there.
I think so.
Now, here's a final thought for you to chew on.
Okay.
We've been talking about how important it is to use these words correctly for grammar, but think about how much this actually affects the way you communicate in English.
Mm.
If you can use for and since accurately, you're going to sound so much clearer.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
People are going to understand you better,
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to express your ideas.
Much more precisely.
Precisely. It's like taking your English to the next level.
It really is. It's a small change, but it can make a huge difference.
Huge. And that's what we love to do here on The Deep Dive, help you refine your English and make you sound amazing.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
So keep practicing, pay attention to those little words, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.